The first U.S. envoy to Somalia in a quarter-century takes up his post as Somalia continues to confront insecurity and prepares for elections. 3 Africans are among the recipients of this year's World Food Prize. And how a dad gained internet fame by poking fun at his daughter's selfie addiction. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidhu-Ewart. This is Africa 54. Vincent Makori is off today. Somali officials say at least 20 people have been killed in a massive roadside explosion that engulfed a passenger bus on the main highway linking Mogadishu to Afgoye, about 30 kilometers west of the capital. A police officer at the scene told reporters that the bomb blast was remotely triggered. Speaking to VOA after visiting the scene of the explosion, the deputy chairman of Afgoye, Abdullahi Hassan, said the blast destroyed the minibus. He also said it is believed that the bus was carrying about 23 people. So far, no one has claimed responsibility for the attack.
I, Stephen Michael Schwartz.
I, Stephen Michael Schwartz.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
Monday's installment of Stephen Schwartz as the new American ambassador to Somalia was a landmark in U.S.-Somali relations. U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who officiated this ceremony, said Somalia has made significant strides in rebuilding its state in the past 3 years.
It's precisely because this moment represents so much possibility, so much potential, that President Obama has chosen as his representative a diplomat of unmatched caliber and a public servant of unrivaled heart.
State collapse is the main reason for the prolonged U.S. diplomatic absence from Somalia. In 1991, the U.S. embassy closed after Somalia's military regime was overthrown and violence erupted between warring clan militias. In late 1992, then U.S. President George H.W. Bush sent in U.S. troops to support a UN humanitarian aid mission aimed at relieving mass starvation caused by drought and civil war. But the situation plummeted downhill 10 months later when 18 American soldiers were killed in Mogadishu by Somali rebels who shot down 2 U.S. helicopters. After 2 decades of war and chaos, it was only in 2012 that Somalia achieved some stability with the creation of an internationally backed government. But security remains a problem as the militant group Al-Shabaab continues to launch attacks in Mogadishu and elsewhere, a situation noted by the new U.S. envoy.
It's time for Somali authorities to establish a responsive and effective Somali National Army to defeat al-Shabaab and unify the country.
Abdi Dahir Mohammed Sirad, a Somali living in Nairobi, believes security is key for Somalia and wants Schwartz to make it a priority.
I think the United States needs to help with the military, building the Somali national forces, which can actually liberate that country from any group that is actually jeopardizing the peace in that country.
Somali elections, scheduled for August, represent a significant undertaking for the country, which is why some Somalis wish Schwartz could have been posted sooner.
We wish he came a year before because right now the elections are just a month away, about 3 months away. And we cannot do much as far as a lot of the logistics is concerned.
Kenya's announcement that it will close the Dadaab refugee camp, whose 300,000 residents are mostly Somalis, will be another issue among many for Schwartz, says a Somali analyst.
The road ahead, it's a very, very complicated one. But if he's smart enough, if it's understand the dynamics of the region, if you understand what they call the Somali, communities, the culture and norms, he can easily overcome all those problems. And I wish him good luck.
However, it may take more than luck for an ambassador whose job responsibilities seem to be mounting by the day. Jill Craig, VOA News, Nairobi.
Thank you, Jill. Airstrikes have killed at least 250 Islamic State fighters in Iraq, according to both Iraqi and U.S. officials. The bombardment hit around 40 Islamic State vehicles Thursday, just south of Fallujah, a former Islamic State stronghold liberated by U.S.-led Iraqi coalitions last week. Speaking to reporters, Iraqi Aviation Commander Lieutenant General Hamid al-Maliki says the number of vehicles destroyed was actually much higher.
By early morning, we destroyed more than 138 vehicles and killed all those inside. They left their dead comrades' bodies and took some wounded militants with them. This operation broke the back of terrorism. No other troops helped in the operation.
Aerial video released by Iraqi shows munitions hitting a convoy of vehicles on a desert road. These airstrikes mark the deadliest attack against the jihadist group, though officials warn their morale does not seem to be damaged despite territorial losses. Syrian forces have also made strides this week in regaining control of Islamic State-held towns near the Iraqi border. As the investigations into the terror attacks in Turkey moves forward, Turkish media reports that police have detained 13 suspects in connection with Tuesday's triple suicide bombing at Istanbul's Atatürk International Airport. The attack killed 42 people and wounded 239 others. At least 3 of those detained in Istanbul are said to be foreigners. Turkish officials have blamed Islamic State for the airport attack, though the militants have not made any claim of responsibility. John Brennan, the head of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, said Wednesday the bombing has the hallmarks of Islamic State depravity and warns the terror group may try the same thing in the United States.
The movement of people and goods in this 21st century world, I think in many respects can facilitate what it is that ISIS is trying to do. And so we've seen that they don't even have to reach out and touch somebody. The horrific attacks in Orlando, an individual who was able to access the material, but also you have individuals that they're able to guide and direct and to deploy. And so there's a range of challenges that intelligence security agencies have.
U.S. President Barack Obama condemned the attack Wednesday during a summit of North American leaders in Canada.
We're going to do what's necessary to protect our people. I'm confident that we can and we will defeat those who offer only death and destruction, and we will always remember, even as there are those who are trying to divide us, that we are stronger when we come together and work toward a better world together.
Airport work crews swept up the broken ceiling tiles and shattered glass Wednesday as heavily armed police officers patrolled the terminals. Turkish Airlines resumed all flight operations, including flights between the U.S. and Istanbul. The state-run Anadolu agency also said authorities arrested 9 people in the western coastal city of Izmir, accused of having links to Islamic State fighters in Syria that included support for the group's finances, recruiting and logistics. The attack on Europe's third busiest airport is the latest in a wave of bombings in Turkey over the past year that have killed more than 260 people. The terrorism has decimated Turkey's tourist industry, which is crucial to its economy. Islamic State is blamed for 2 suicide bombings earlier this year in Istanbul that targeted foreign tourists. U.S. First Lady Michelle Obama is in Spain on the final leg of her 3-nation tour to promote girls' education around the world. Mrs. Obama spoke before a conference of girls and young women in Madrid on her Let Girls Learn initiative, which addresses such obstacles as forced marriage, poverty and violence that keep more than 62 million girls worldwide out of school.
I know that we all can support efforts to help them go to school. And I know that we all can change our cultures here in Spain and around the world to honor and respect women and girls, to see them as leaders worthy of an education capable of achieving their dreams. I know we can do this because I believe in the power of young women like all of you to truly change the world.
The U.S. First Lady arrived Wednesday in Spain from Morocco, where she announced a $100 million fund to address high dropout rates among girls and make schools more girl-friendly. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Coming up, African researchers are among 4 recipients of the World Food Prize this year. Stay with us.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They tell you what people are talking about. So for an in-depth look at the stories trending high on social media, turn to #VOA. It's not your typical talk show. From politics to pop culture, #VOA brings in the people leading the conversation, engages the audience, and gets answers to your questions. #VOA. Smart talk for smart people.
It's time now for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu to tell us about the winners of the World Food Prize.
That's right, Esther. 4 researchers, 3 based in Africa and 1 in the U.S., are this year's recipients of the World Food Prize. Dr. Maria Andrade, Dr. Robert Mwanga, Dr. Chan Lo, and Dr. Howard Boyce developed and distributed vitamin A-enriched strains of the orange-fleshed sweet potato that could better withstand conditions including drought and disease in Africa. The team launched the multi-year effort in a bid to help combat the effects of vitamin A deficiency, which can contribute to blindness and premature death in children and pregnant women. The annual international award recognizes the achievements of those who improve the quantity, quality, and availability of food around the world. Now, in a newly released report, the United Nations Children's Fund says, based on current trends, 69 million children are expected to die from mostly preventable causes by 2030, the target date for the Sustainable Development Goals. UNICEF's The State of the World's Children report says 167 million children will live in poverty, and the poorest children are twice as likely to be chronically malnourished or die before their 5th birthday than the richest. Sub-Saharan Africa will account for nearly half of the children who will die from mostly preventable causes. The report urges governments, donors, businesses, and international organizations to accelerate efforts to address their needs. Now, to Zika virus, the race to develop a vaccine and successfully test and immunize people against Zika is speeding ahead. Connecticut-based Protein Science Corporation is one of several companies in preclinical stages developing and manufacturing a Zika vaccine for review by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Well, here at Protein Sciences, we are basically using the technology that we developed for our flu block vaccine to make a Zika vaccine. And the big advantage of that is that we can really very rapidly develop that Zika vaccine. So we have already inserted the protective protein into a baculovirus vector, and we have produced the protein. The Zika virus, which has swept through the Caribbean and South America since last fall, has been linked to microcephaly, a rare birth defect in Brazil, as well as to the neurological disorder Guillain-Barré. One of the drugs is a so-called DNA vaccine engineered from a single Zika viral protein. The other is a purified, inactivated, or killed virus, the same technology used to make the original polio vaccine. My estimation is that if it turns out that the occurrence of birth defects is not as high as it appears to be in Brazil, then the FDA will probably take their usual process, and then it would take probably, I would imagine, 2 to 3 years before we would have a vaccine in our hand. Would the situation become far more urgent, then they could act much more quickly and they could provide licenses under an emergency use authorization. And that would mean probably that they could do it already within a year time. Even if a Zika vaccine were to be designated under the emergency use authorization, such as the Ebola vaccine was, researchers say there are significant hurdles ahead.
From identifying a disease to make a vaccine that can go and be tested in humans, usually it takes around 1 year if everything goes fine. And the problem is that 1 year from now, it may not be so many cases of Zika virus infections, making them very challenging to test the vaccine.
U.S. vaccine maker Inovio Pharmaceuticals recently received U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval to begin testing its Zika DNA vaccine in humans. And that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at Linor Moudou. Esther, back to you.
Thanks, Lino. Be sure to watch Lino Moudou's health reports every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Africa 54. Turning to the East African nation of Kenya, where Maasai cricket warriors are playing to raise awareness on dangers of female genital mutilation and conserve the country's wildlife. Ruud Elmendorp reports from Ol Pejeta in Kenya.
Exchanging innings on the eternal plains in the heart of Kenya. The Maasai cricket warriors are playing to raise funds for the conservation of the country's precious wildlife. The Maasai are a livestock herding tribe, and the reason why some are not tracking with animals today is because of 26-year-old Sonyanga, who founded the team in 2007 after he saw cricket being played in his village. Sonyanga discovered striking similarities between the British sport and the daily life of Maasai warriors.
Because throwing a spear is just like bowling in cricket. And also batting in cricket is just the same as using the shield when the warriors are protecting themselves against the wild animals, or when the warriors are in war, or when they are battling.
Sonyanga kept a vision for the team, throwing balls at social issues and mainly against female circumcision. That is common among Maasai as a ritual to prepare young girls for marriage. Sonyanga realized he had to do something after he saw his sisters undergoing the painful procedure and forcefully being married off.
I've been losing a lot of my sisters, my old sisters, who have been taking care of me when I was young, to female genital mutilation, and they're just being married off when they are very young, before even I realized who they are, and lacking that love they used to give me.
The Maasai cricket warriors over the years pitched camps across Kenya and other parts of the world. Sonyanga says that his message is getting across. His cricket-playing 19-year-old sister Eunice was saved from the cut. Although being frowned upon by the older generations, she got something in return: education.
You can see, like, all the uneducated girls, they have undergone circumcision. And once you have undergone FGM, you are definitely going to be given out by your father. You'll be given out wherever age you'll be. You'll be given out to your husband. They don't care what you'll go and how you'll survive.
Eunice earned support of her mother, who witnessed what happened when her other daughters were circumcised.
You prove you become a mother. We've seen that's not good. If the child has not been circumcised, we see it's good, and the child can move forward a lot by studying and starting other businesses.
And by slowly removing deprecated elements from their traditions, the Maasai hope to keep their culture alive for the future, as they did over the last few centuries. But as traditional patterns usually take long to change, it will require a lot of wickets to fall before female circumcision belongs to the past. And meanwhile, many girls will still undergo the ancient ritual. This is Ruud Elmendorp for the Voice of America, Ol Pejeta, Kenya.
It's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Tired of your teen selfie habit? Maybe this dad selfie send-up is a solution. We'll be right back.
Donner à la MINUSMA tous les moyens pour lui permettre de s'adapter.
show some love to DJ Obi, making the world record.
Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. What can a parent do when a kid can't stop snapping? A dad in Spokane, Washington didn't like his 19-year-old daughter's selfie addiction, so he started recreating 19-year-old Casey's poses and posted them on Instagram. Chris Martin replicated his daughter's looks at tea, even copying her tattoos, which he drew on with a pen. Of course, the snaps went viral on social media. Dad Chris says he's surprised at the attention he's received from around the world. What about daughter Casey? Overall, she says the feedback has been positive, and that made her appreciate her dad even more. Next up, is this what the farm of the future will look like? With the use of LED lamps, aerofarms grow its crops by what is known as indoor vertical farming, by turning industrial spaces into fully functional farms without the use of soil or sunlight. The company greatest high-yielding crops through economically effective ways to provide locally sourced food to the community, protect the environment, and fight to end hunger worldwide. Instead of growing crops on soil, Aerofarm used cloths made from recycled water bottles as the base in which the seeds grow. An algorithm allows for plants like kale, arugula, and watercress to sprout within its 5-foot-wide, 80-foot-long towers. The company plans to develop 25 more farms nationally and internationally over the next 5 years. And finally, New York City has found a new way to go green. These 4 Nubian goats were grazing along a berm separating Brooklyn Bridge Park and the traffic-heavy Brooklyn-Queens Expressway earlier this week. The 4 brothers are rented by the park for the summer to take care of unwanted vegetation in an ecologically friendly way. The goats were selected for the project because of their young age and great appetite. Besides having ecological effects, the park's president says that the goats are economical compared to human labor. If the pilot program proves to be successful, the park intends to expand the Goat Gardener program to other areas. And that's what's trending. Nearly 70% of Africa's bamboo forests grow in Ethiopia, but much of it is commercially untouched. However, startup companies like African Bamboo, a forestry, wood, and bioenergy company based in Addis Ababa, has developed innovative ways to tap into Ethiopia's natural resource. Africa 54's Paul Ndiho has more.
If you asked the average person on the street to name a country that they associated with bamboo plant, it's unlikely you would hear many answers other than Ethiopia. But the country is rich in bamboo, with 2.4 million acres of it untapped due to widespread deforestation. The government has taken drastic measures to promote sustainable harvests, and green industries like African Bamboo are strategically placing themselves to tap into this growing industry. Khalid Duri is the general manager.
We are a manufacturer for the oldest and widely used building material, timber. So we are an alternative or a natural substitute for tropical hardwood.
Duri says industries such as African Bamboo are taking steps in managing, cultivating and using Ethiopian bamboo species to help mitigate rapid deforestation in the country by creating alternative wood sources and sustainable business opportunities.
If you look at Asia, it's a huge industry, $120 billion. If you look at Africa, negligible, almost zero. So we're trying to be a pioneer or to lead the industrial use of bamboo for demanding applications like outdoor flooring, cladding and the like.
Bamboo is potentially an ideal source of local, sustainable, purpose-engineered building materials for growing cities not only in Ethiopia but across Africa. Khalid Duri was one of the few African innovators competing for more than $1 million in investment at a recently concluded AG Innovation Summit organized by USAID. The event brought together more than 50 agricultural technology innovators and investors to present, assess and invest in game-changing technologies that will help small farmers improve their productivity and competitiveness. Event organizer Dr. Ku McMahon.
We are quite interested in what we're hearing. Some of the innovations are having some successes that are new to us, that, though we've been following them, they've had a lot in the last 6 to 9 months that we weren't necessarily expecting. As a group, as an agency, along with our other partners from the Netherlands, Sweden, and South Africa, we're taking a look at these innovations and seeing how many of them could receive support from us, and then also who can we connect them to so they can receive other potential investment.
Industry analysts say bamboo trade will also benefit from its greater sustainability than rival materials such as timber. Bamboo is the fastest growing plant in the world, capable of growing almost 1 meter a day, so that stalks can rapidly be regenerated. Bamboo is extremely versatile. The profit potential has become even greater as environmentalists link bamboo with climate change mitigation and the possibility of increased income through carbon credits. How much of an impact do you think you're going to have in Ethiopia?
At least 6,000 farmers. So they would earn in total, in aggregate, €1.5 million annually. Individually, their income would rise from just below $1 to above $2.
So far, 18 African countries with natural bamboo have joined the International Network for Bamboo, which is assisting them with bamboo information, technology transfer, capacity building, and policy formulation. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and good night from Washington.
Welcome to the Voice of America's News Words. This word is one you might hear in many different stories. Generally, it has a positive meaning.
Solution. Despite different views of events that led to this crisis, Kerry says the United States and Russia agree on the importance of finding a diplomatic solution, and both made suggestions about how to de-escalate the security and political situation.
A solution is something that solves a problem. It is something that is used or done to fix a difficult situation. When there are problems between countries, there can be a peaceful or diplomatic solution, or a military one, war.
Now, when you hear the word solution, your American English will be good enough to know what it means.